Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it take a swim.
Hey everybody, welcome to the post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank. You can always catch a replay of all of our broadcasts on shrimptankpodcast.com or download us on iTunes. You'll hear some of the brightest and best CEOs across the state of Georgia. I am your co-host, Ted Jenkins, sitting here with my co-host, Chris Hanks. We have our guest today, Shawn Vernimo, who's the owner of the Greystone Consulting Group. We learned a ton about the roofing business today, so I recommend that you listen to the entire podcast after you watch this.
So we were talking a lot about the roofing business, which is kind of interesting because a lot of entrepreneurs wouldn't necessarily think about getting into that. So what's the appeal of a roofing business?
Profitable. What's the appeal of any business?
I like that about the business.
Any business. It's a tough business, but it is a profitable business. If well run, organized, and structured, it's absolutely a good business.
You know, what's interesting to me in looking at the high schools today, and I don't think this is just a microcosm of what happens here in Georgia, is the schools are training all of these children to basically get SAT ready, college preparatory, and I think that I'm curious about your vantage point. Are we missing out on having some sort of vocational or craft track? I can remember when I took shop in high school as a kid, but do you think that needs to be there so more younger kids see that going into being a roofer or, you know, being a plumber, like these are really, really good and well-paying jobs?
Absolutely. The big thing among millennials now is student debt. And a lot of these kids are coming.
Almost 30,000 per student now, coming out.
Ton of student debt. I can take a young man, he can work for me for those same 4 years who may not be the best and have him making more than a recent graduate. And I know that's kind of a little bit controversial since we're sitting here with a KSU director of entrepreneurial. But not every kid is cut out. So I think that there has to be a place for kids who just are not the studious type.
And maybe it's somewhat, you know, in the parents too, because parents, we're almost trained to say you must send your kid to college or they're not so good if they're in college. But I notice now that the cost of an accountant per hour and the cost of a plumber per hour, it's almost the same amount per hour.
Absolutely. You're going to pay for the skill set. And so because there are fewer tradesmen, the cost of that tradesman is going up.
So in our work with aggressive growth companies, scale is a consistent issue of that challenges business owners. But I think in roofing, it seems especially hard. I mean, how do you scale a roofing company?
It is extremely difficult. Roofing is it's a local type of business. You're dealing with local people and you're dealing with local projects. So scaling on a national side is extremely difficult. And so what you're really looking for is opportunities to try to find some efficiencies in that scale, whether that's your back-end order management, your inventory control, your HR, your onboarding, your accounting, all of those you are trying to squeeze a little bit more efficiency, and that's what allows you to scale. It's extremely difficult to try to do that without resources of a large organization.
And do you think, I guess our last question today on the post-show wrap-up is, do you think Elon Musk will change the face of roofing forever?
Absolutely. If he delivers on what he promised, yeah, it's gonna rock a lot of roofers' worlds.
I almost liken him to seeing Steve Jobs, 20 years ago when they started to revamp Apple and what came out with the iPod when it first came out, and it just revolutionized the way that people listen to music, and now we see what happening in phones. His ideas seem to be out there, but they seem plausible.
Well, absolutely. One of the biggest challenges for solar is, let's face it, it's ugly. It's a big panel on your roof, and nobody really wants it. If you look at what he presented, it is aesthetically pleasing. And so he's overcome that challenge. Forget the technical stuff. It looks good. And so when you're talking to a homeowner and they're looking, do I really want these panels on my roof? If you looked at his video, you can't even tell they are solar panels. So he's overcome the biggest challenge, which is the aesthetics.
Well, we thank you so much for being on the Shrimp Tank today. For folks that are watching the post-show wrap-up and they want to hire you or your company to consult them on their new building or their new solar project or whatever it may be for their roofing needs, how can they get in touch with you and your company?
They can reach me at www.greystonecg.com.
GreystonCG.com. I, Ted Jenkins, volunteer on the Shrimp Tank today that if Elon Musk will let me put one of those nice solar roofs on my house, I will pay for it and do it in my neighborhood despite what my neighbors might say. So thanks so much. Again, download the Shrimp Tank from iTunes. Go to shrimptankpodcast.com if you want to hear Shawn's entire interview today. And thanks for joining us on the post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank.